to touch this side, but you know.
I could have made this all one color too. I might be, I'm pretty sure I'm a hair off.
Hi guys, I'm here in the studio. I am working on some wall decor. I have a retail booth at a local antique mall, and instead of having a whole bunch just waiting to go in, I like to wait till one piece sells, kind of have empty space unfortunately, and then create something that will fit in that space. That's just how it works for me. So I need to get some mirrors, some wall decor, some checkerboard, something like that to fit into the spaces that I have. If you're new to the channel, my name is Yvonne, and I love to go out and about on the hunt for secondhand finds. Not only to resell, to decorate my own home with, but I also love to share the vision with pre-loved items that might need a little bit of help just to get them to be loved again. And did I say checkerboards? Yes, I said checkerboards. Checkerboards somehow are now on a trend again. And so what I like to do is I like to look for secondhand pre-loved boards that are just like already made. Like this one has a hole. It's well loved, like a type of plywood. And then I buy some stencils off of Amazon to be able to create a checkerboard. This board up to make a checkerboard, I'm going to use some of the DIY's paint Farm Fresh. The thing I like about DIY paint is that the color palette of her paints not only go for that bohemian type, but they also go for the primitive vibe that I love. So this has definitely got that old-timey green turquoisey going on. It does take a little bit of a technique to get used to how to use the paint, but a few times of painting stuff, I was good. So we are going to paint both sides of the board. Now it's a clay-based paint, so it's a little bit on the thicker side. So but heavily pigmented, a little bit of this paint goes a long way. Yes, I want to make sure that I get my edges. The nice thing about this clay-based paint is that you can use a heat gun, especially since we're doing both sides to speed up the process of doing the project. You can dry it with a heat gun. First coat is dry. Now I'm going to mist it with a spray bottle, which then brings that paint back to life. And now for the second coat, it'll really just take minimal, because that first coat will attract that second coat, just to make sure that we have everything covered. I'm going to, before flipping it over, seal this in with some Crayon UV top coat, which should bring that color back out. Now I have two stencils I'm going to be adding on it. I actually found a real checkerboard stencil on Amazon. The ones before only had 7 lines, and I didn't realize that when ordering them until one of the first times. Actually, the last time I used it, I was using a inspiration picture and realized that they were different. They weren't completely the same. And then I have these beautiful, I would say, doves. Folk arty that I'm going to put on top. So I just wanted to make sure that I had this down far enough before, and I'm just going to eyeball it. It gives it that homemade look that way. And see what I mean? You're not going to get that perfect even color if that's what you're using for. Fusion paint is perfect for that, but that's not what I'm looking for. So for the checkerboard color, I'm going to do the DIY little black dress again, only because it is so heavy pigmented that I only need to do one time over. Then I don't have to go back and do another coat. So that's kind of huge, because the more times you go over it, the more you can slop around underneath. So dry technique where there's just a little bit of paint on that makeup sponge from the Dollar Tree store.
See what I mean? I don't need to go over it a whole bunch of times because it's so heavy pigmented. Easy for you all to say. I struggle. Okay, got it all on. One coat was plenty. Now we'll go ahead and take it off. Checkerboard. Okay, now I just need to get the birds attached. There's that little hole, so I'm centering it in the middle of the hole there. And I'll only be able to tape it down in one area, unless I wanted to cut my stencil, and I really don't. So for the bird color, I'm going to go ahead and use Bohemian Blue. Do a little dab of cake batter right where that little beak is going to be. And then for the leaves, some gypsy green. And then for the berries, I'm going to do some Summer Crush. I don't have any red, but that's okay. Ta-da! Very folk arty. And now I'm going to use that same piece of tape and then go over, line up with my black. And bring a little bit of the colors that I painted up there into a square around the checkerboard. Not a very big line. I don't have a ton of space to add a few colors. Then I need to make little cuts where it overlaps to take that, remove that piece of tape. So that I'm making a box. Okay, so I think I'm going to do the blue closest. The Bohemian Blue. Now I'm going to bump out again on top of the blue and do another line. So now I'm going to go in with the Summer Crush, which is the orange. I want to at least, I'm going to try to do all three colors around the same way. Nope, I'm going to leave the yellow out. That's a lot of taping. Okay, taped off for the green. You didn't have to be tortured with that process. Oh no. Oh, well, just leave it. Leave it. Before sanding or anything like that, I don't want my colors to smear. I'm going to spray that all in with some crayon clear coat. I don't want you to feel the raised of being painted, so I'm going to take some 220 sandpaper and then just go over it. revealing some of the wood. Now to finish this up, I'm going to use aging wax to blend all these colors together. I'm going to give that right amount of patina, of dirt. I always get asked what's the difference between aging and antiquing. Now antiquing to me is more brown, so it would really darken up my paint. That's why I like the aging, because it's just getting into the crevices and just deepening, richening, like what time would have done to a piece. Because at first you're probably like, that paint looks like it's a hot mess. Well, it's not once you wax it. Next piece, sadly, this is a piece that I made myself. So my music wreaths usually fly off the shelves, but I did this one in all white paper. I've had it in and out of my booth a couple times, and it's just not selling. So I can't really like do much with it on. I can patina it. That's what I think what people like. They like that aged paper of that music wreath, like the copied. It's just too white, so I need to coffee stain dye it, but I need to take it off there. I'll probably save it for another project to put it onto another piece when I come across, because I need the frame. I have a piece of decoupage paper that I have been holding on to, that I've been wanting to do, that I cannot find a frame to fit perfectly. So this one fits, so I'm not going to throw that wreath away, because if you've made these paper music sheet wreaths, you know how much time and effort they take. And you all will see why I want that frame. Look at this beautiful black swan. And it's an odd size. Like every other frame that I had, it was either too short or it was too wide. Like, so you would see too much of it. And I know I can distress it and I can mirror it, but unfortunately, it was only like mirroring the top and the bottom. It is just a long sheep. And so when I kind of tested out on that frame, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, wreath, you're going to have to be saved and taken off for another project. When I glue something on, I want it to stay on. So hopefully I can get this removed without damaging the paper too bad. Now I can get that off. Well, like I said, I'm going to change the color of the frame, and I'm going to do DIY's little black dress. I'm not going to worry about taping off because the paper is going to go in here, and I'm going to have to paint the background of this anyway. And I think with the paper that I'm going to be using, the black will be wonderful. I'll probably age the black a little bit. Okay, now that I have the frame painted black, I'm going to use some of the decrepit dust to bring out some of the beautiful details. I didn't get all the white covered up. I only did one coat. Let me see before I do any wax, because I didn't wax this or seal any of this in. I just dried it with the heat gun. So I'm just trying to give this frame a little bit of age. So not to be pure black.
A little bit of this dust goes a long way. I'm just going to take a bigger brush, kind of brush off the excess. Okay, now I'm just going to take a dry cloth and I'm just going to rub some of that dust off the detailed areas. What looks like a whole bunch of dirt, you just take a dry cloth and then just very gingerly rub it. And then all those little details will start to pop and come out. And the decrepit dust will just stay behind. And my frame the way I want it to be, I'm going to spray this in with a clear coat. I'm out of my crayon, so I'm going to use the Rust-Oleum matte finish, and then I need to paint this insert. Put my decoupage paper on this board, it would be dark. So I need to do a background of white. And I go very carefully because the back of this is already finished with paper and a hanging system and all that. So I just need to get a coat of white on here so the decoupage paper will pop and not fade away.
Now it's time to attach the paper to the board. And I mean, it's just the right fit. Just. Let it'll stretch a little bit. Little bit. Yeah, I can't get the whole tail on there. I'd rather not cut off the bill. So to adhere it on, I'm just going to be using some of Fusion's decoupage, where is that? Decoupage transfer gel. The nice thing about this stuff is it doesn't bleed out your paper or anything like that. Get a little bit of playtime, work time. Missed it just a little bit. Got some saran wrap balled up as to not rip the paper. Just work it in sections. Wetting the paper just gives you a little bit more play with the paper instead of pulling on it and accidentally ripping it. Then I can use my brayer and try to get it down just a little bit more. But I'll work on my edges. This is not usually the way that you do it, you know, having it on inlaid in the frame. But I'm going to wait till this layer dries before trying to do anything with snipping on the end. Since the paper is wet, it rips really easy. Well, now I need to go in and make my relief cuts so that we can put this all the way down now. So I'm gonna try to butt this up right to the frame as tight as I can get it. And then take an X-Acto knife. Didn't get as crisp as lines as I was hoping for, but like this is not usually your technique that you do. It's okay. I'll make it work. First, we're going to go ahead and put some more of the transfer gel on the top of it to seal the paper in, especially those edges. and then trying to make sure that it's all covered, and it should dry clear. So to cover up my not so well cut off job, I'm just going to take a little bit of the clear wax and then we'll just add a little bit more of that decrepit dust. So if you want a little bit closer look, just a little bit along the seam of the wax. And then just a little bit of the decrepit dust onto that wax while it's wet. I'm taking another dry brush and just fanning it out. And then I'm going to do one more coat of clear to make sure that everything is good and sealed in. And I have an old window. Yep, just a plain Jane, old wooden window. I have an idea to make a little bit of signage of what I wanted to do with this. So I'm going to go ahead and I got the frame all cleaned up, the glass all cleaned up as best as I can. And now I'm just going to use Fusion's chocolate paint. We're going to give it more of a wood look. So I'm at least going to get one coat of this. And this is like unfinished, unsealed wood, so it's just going to soak it right in. It's funny how sometimes you're like, oh no, I don't want to do that project, I want to do this project. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. The frame has some bites out of it, some war marks, but that just gives it character. I saw this window in the Burgess Antique Center that said retired men $1.25, which I'm assuming $1 that you weren't buying a retired man, that you were buying probably a haircut at $125 or a shave. So I'm like, I keep remembering that I want to reproduce that type of a look. So the frame was not white, the frame was brown and not completely well painted. So I thought this is perfect. It's fun to do something that's not always your usual. I always think that's the biggest compliment you can get, is somebody taking one of your ideas and running with it. Not necessarily copying it, well, they could completely copy it. Or just running with an idea and then tweaking it to make it their own. So I taped up all the glass because I thought I was going to have to spray it with shellac if I was going to paint the frame white. It would bleed through. But then I decided to go this route where I didn't need to spray it. Gotta love a lazy Susan. Now with the all-in-one paint, I just have to wait for it to dry. Or I find if I try to take a heat gun and rush the process, I make bubbles. I try to remove the paint. I guess if you did a blow dryer, it would be different, but nope, I'm just going to have to wait for this one to dry. Okay, my paint's dry. I'm going to go ahead and distress the edges. going to go in and use my Cricut to do a stencil. Oops, hello, I don't need that many. And then I'll just size it. I'm going to add the words cuts, not to confuse people, because sometimes I confuse people. And you're probably wondering, why am I going in and making all these separately? Because I need to make them different sizes. Sometimes it doesn't like me to just make them small. Sometimes I gotta go in and change that all together. Okay, now I've got to weed out my letterings to make my stencil. And I usually will try to get it cut out as close to my lettering as I can. That way it's easier for me to put it onto the item and make sure that it's even. I'm gonna get it put on my transfer tape. I like the one with the grid pattern because that helps me yet again try to keep everything level. And I'm actually going to kind of just eyeball this because this is supposed to be somebody just writing on their window. They did not have a Cricut back then. So whether it goes up or down or not level, it's okay. Okay. I might be, oh, I'm pretty sure I'm a hair off. It's okay. So I taped off the area I don't want to get paint on. I'm going to use Little Black Dress again, only because it's so heavily pigmented. But I'm going to kind of like follow the lines because this is supposed to look like it was handwritten. Which my handwriting would never be that good. Now that it's dry, to seal that DIY paint is, I'm just going to use some of the clear matte finish. And I'm probably not going to wait too long to remove it so it's not all stuck. Okay, now I got to put a hanging system on it, and they just had it hanging from a wire. So that's what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, I don't have any old hardware like that, but got some black wire at least. Don't want mine terribly high. I'm just gonna twist these up just because I don't want to, we're not doubling up the wire or anything. And my last piece for this video is too big to hold up, y'all. I have to, yeah, it's heavy and it's already laying down. Okay, and then I have this mirror that I just picked up at an auction, and it is beautiful, but gold frames will last forever in a booth. They will not sell, but there's something about that old olive green from Sweet Pickins milk paint that sells, so that's what this one's going to get. I don't really want to sand this mirror, but I am going to spray a couple coats of shellac to act like a primer to help my paint stick. Just something about olive and painting an old mirror this color. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that again. Every single one that I've painted this color has sold. I do have to paint the back as you saw, so but it's well worth it. So Sweet Pickins milk paint, as you saw, was a powder, and then you mix with equal parts liquid. You incorporate the two together by stirring for about 2 minutes. Make sure that you smash it off to the side unless you have a little mixer, one of those little electric stirrers for your smoothies or whatever, but I just hand stir it with a plastic spoon or plastic knife, and then just kind of squish it against the side, making sure that I get it all incorporated together. And you'll see that it aerates, gets all bubbly. Takes about 2 minutes to get this incorporated together. And then you just sit it off to the side a little bit and let it thicken up. Paint sit up, so now I need to stir it up again because it's all probably settled to the bottom. It does kind of do that. Then that would be way too much paint on my brush. So I'm just going to go ahead, and like I said, I'm doing the back side first. This is a nice, big, gorgeous mirror with some detail. Worth taking the time to tape off the back so you don't get paint all over it. Okay, so I flipped it over, we sprayed some more shellac on the front, and now I can start to paint the front of the mirror. The shellac just helps attract the paint and helps it bond to this very shiny surface. So 2 coats on the back, and then it'll take 2 coats on the front, I'm sure. We're getting into all of that beautiful detail. So now that I have applied my second coat, I'm going to take the heat gun and help it along to make sure that it crackles. There they are, random, and I love that they're random. Now that I got it to crackle, it's got some beautiful crackle. I let it cool off for me using the heat gun to help it along. Now I'm going to use some of the aging wax to bring out all those beautiful details, those crackles. Give this piece some age. And for some reason right now, this is my hot seller. Tomorrow it could be it could be something different. You just never know, right? Okay. And just wipe off the excess and let it stay in those little crevices. Gorgeous. I'm not gentle when I'm rubbing. If it's going to come off, it's going to come off now. And the wax is going to seal the milk paint in. Beautiful. Look at the difference. It sticks into all those little cracks. It just gives it all that right amount of age. So this didn't have a wire on the back of it. It had this kind of hardware. So I just put a 17 gauge wire on it, nice and tight. But then I did a cross one. So there's two different options that somebody can hang this from. I think people kind of like that, especially when it's a rectangle like that. So thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope that you enjoyed. Yes, I needed some wall decor to fit in some empty spaces on my walls in my antique booth. So I hope I have inspired you to kind of go off the straight and narrow of doing the same old, and doing those inspirations that you have saved to your Pinterest board. Like the men's cut, I saw that at Antique Mall, and I'm like, I really should reproduce that. I have tons of windows. How hard could it be? Just remembering to do it. And finally finding a frame, even though I had to recycle a frame that just didn't sell. Finally found something for that beautiful black swan. And checkerboards right now are just kind of selling. So why not make what's selling along with that beautiful olive, mirror chippiness, aged. They have been hotcakes for me, so I'm going to keep on making them until it slows down. That's just how that goes, right? You want to make something that sells. So give me a quick comment down below. Have I inspired you to go through your junk pile, or when you're out and about shopping, looking for these types of items to make over? And as always, thank you for being part of our YouTube family. And if you're not part of our YouTube family, if you are new to the channel and this is your vibe, secondhand makeovers, please smash that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know the next time I've uploaded a video. And we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye!